welcome to another Star Wars special on Rogue One, a Star Wars story. You've got me, Grand Moff Zenger.
And me, EK2SO.
Man,
Hey,
stole what mine was going to be.
No, I didn't steal it. You already said yours.
Whatever. And we've been joined by...
David the Hutt.
Ooh, nice, nice. David Ginsburg of Tales from the Fandom has joined us. If you've listened to his podcast, we've been on there several times to discuss Star Wars, so we decided to pull him over to our side of the galaxy to get him to discuss it with us this time.
Pleasure to be here.
With our new thing that we do now with the movies, we discuss our top 3 moments.
Yes.
So, I'm once again, I'm going to say spoiler warning for the entire movie, so there you go, wide open for everybody now. All right, so
sorry,
David, you are our guest, so I will give you the opportunity. What are your top 3 moments from Rogue One?
All right, my top 3 moments. The first is Chirrut Imwe, when he steps out into the alleyway, basically, and takes down a whole bunch of stormtroopers all by himself.
Nice. Good choice. You can do your entire top 3.
Okay, my second one is the epic battle above Scarif with the Hammerhead Corvette, I believe it is, ramming into the Star Destroyer and taking down the entire shield.
Awesome.
And the third one is another Chirrut with him walking through the blaster fire so that he can activate the master switch to enable the rest of the rebellion to get the plans for the Death Star.
Awesome. All right, Ellie, I'll let you go next, being a gentleman that I am.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, one of mine was the Rebel fleet attack as well. It was pretty awesome seeing the Hammerhead ships ramming into each other, so I definitely love that. And just the whole, like, the throwbacks to the red and gold leaders and all. I just love the whole, all of the battle stuff is great at the end there. And then Jyn's speech, where she's saying, and she's making that big speech in front of everybody when she's trying to talk them into, leading this attack to get the plans. And she says rebellions are built on hope. I don't know. I love that. It was very inspiring. It was really cool. And then by far, hands down, Darth Vader. When he, at that very end, when it's leading into, it's leading into the moments right before the, A New Hope.
Leading into New Hope.
And just where it's black and then the light comes up and you can see the red of the lightsaber. And it's so freaking awesome. It's awesome. I love it.
I'm going to kind of bullet point mine because I know I'm going to talk about it more when we're in discussion. Mm-hmm. And I know that this has been mentioned. And I've got to hold off my just geek out that I'm going to have probably in T-minus I'd say about 20 minutes. Oh. My first one is actually the occupation of Jeddah. Having the Star Destroyer hovering over the city, I thought was something that was really cool, and it's something that, in the extended universe and, other canon stories, they had always talked about, Imperials, the ships being hovering over cities and stuff, and it's just something you never got to really see in the original trilogy, so getting to see it was really cool. And just the whole Empire, how just imposing they are when they are occupying an area. Yeah. So that was really cool for me to see that. My number 2 moment would be the Vader. Vader at the end of the movie was great, and actually just Vader throughout the movie I thought was solid. Mm-hmm. And my number 1 was the whole battle of Scarif, both ground and air. Mostly the one in the air and space was just phenomenal for me. But like I said, there's a countdown to a total geek out I will have over that coming very soon. So those are our top 3 moments. Definitely let us know what yours are. But now we're going to move into the plot real quick, even though we've kind of spoiled some stuff. But For this, we always try to mix up, what we do for the plot on this one, and I'm actually going to steal where this entire almost premise for this movie came from the opening crawl of A New Hope. So we're going to jump ahead a movie to then jump back a movie.
Right.
It is a period of civil war. Rebel ships strike from a hidden base.
Can I stop you?
Yeah. You want to do it?
No, I want you to do it in a cool voice.
Cool voice?
Yes.
This might take a few takes. All right. It is a period of civil war. Rebel ships strike from a hidden base. Having won their first victory against the evil Galactic Empire, during the battle, the rebels' spies managed to steal secret plans to the Empire's ultimate weapon, the Death Star, an armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet.
Dun, dun, dun.
So that's where the entire idea for this movie came from, was basically around about 2 lines in an opening crawl.
Can I just say how awesome that is?
What, that voice? Thank you.
Oh, well, of course, that too. But I absolutely adore being Star Wars fans, and I think we've talked about this before. It's so nice to have more stories and not just have to deal with episodes 1 through 9. Like, we get to have these little snippets of awesomeness, and I think it's great that they could make such a great film off of, like you said, just a couple sentences, basically. So
from an opening crawl.
Yeah, so it's really, really exciting to me of the stuff that could come in the future.
Well, I think this is a good point, and Ellie brings this up, and I think we should tackle this right now. This is technically not one of the episodic Star Wars. So within our discussions, excluding, the whole expanded universe and legends discussion, this is our first chance to talk about a movie that's not episodic in nature. So what is your guys' opinions on this being sort of its own story? It has elements from the main Star Wars universe, but of course it's not presented as a full-fledged Star. It does not have the crawl. It doesn't have a lot of the other notes from the other movies, but it's definitely set within that universe and definitely has a lot of those themes. So what do you guys think of this idea of expanding the universe through these movies? David, we're going to start with you on this one.
Well, I love background information. It's something that I've always loved about the Star Wars universe, Legends universe, and now we're really getting into some solid background stuff. And it's really it's so incredible to get to have the world expanded in canon, so now it's official, and just get like new places and new ideas and new questions, like on Jeddah with that statue that's laying on the ground. Is that a Jedi? Is it supposed to be on the ground? Was it originally standing up? Now I have more questions that I hope maybe will get answered somewhere down the line in a canon book, or maybe a future movie. But I think that, and I was real hesitant when this movie came out. I wasn't sure if I really wanted to see it or go see it because of how they are redoing the canon, essentially. But I loved it. I want more of what they have done, and I really hope that they branch out and give us maybe some even different style of movies, like maybe a bounty hunter type movie or a noir style movie. I mean, the opportunities are endless, and I feel like they can't really go wrong as long as they've got some solid story to back it up.
All right, well, I'll go second on this one because Ellie does like to sometimes anchor the conversations, so I'll let her go last for this one. This for me was a opportunity for them to show that they could do a Star Wars movie that was not part of the episodic things, and I think they knocked it out of the park. I think this was a fantastic experiment for them. They definitely proved they could do it. I know that this was plagued with rewrites and tons of other stuff, but you wouldn't have known it watching the movie. I think they did a great job. Does it have its issues? Yeah, it has a few here and there, but it's nothing that none of the other Star Wars have. So it had a nice callbacks. It had I think the right amount of Vader in it. I think if they had him in any more involved, it would have kind of taken away from the fact that this isn't supposed to be a Vader-based movie or a Skywalker family-based movie. I think they had enough of it in there because he felt like when he was in there, it was necessary. It would have been what Vader was, ordered to do or what Vader would be involved in. The return of, Grand Moff Tarkin, which I know that some people are against the computer, recreation of him. I didn't mind it. If you focused on him, it ruined it. But
right.
I think it was in there enough to where it was really cool to see him brought back to life, basically, and to be interacting with other Imperials. And it kind of just, I think it did just a fantastic job. And I mean, I'll talk more about that later, but Ellie, so your impressions of this being, a branch off movie, how do you think it did?
I loved it. I mean, we first need to give credit to the whole reason why this even happened is because of George Lucas. He's actually the one that first came up with the fact that you should do standalone movies. So hats off to them for allowing this to happen.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. But as far as the statue is concerned, I just wanted to piggyback to that really quick.
The statue in the sand on
yes.
Jeddah.
You and I were talking about this briefly earlier, and, a lot of people believe that was part of the first Jedi Temple. And
one of them, possibly.
Yeah, right. And so it's it was very fitting to show it in the movie just because it's kind of that time period where you're starting to lose hope, and it's been going on for a long time, and it's all battered and kind of worn down, so it's kind of representative of their
psyche.
Yeah, they're tired and they're worn down, they're tired of fighting, and so I thought that was very fitting for it to be in there. But we can talk about that later if you want more. But yeah, I love it. Like I said earlier, I am very excited that it did so well because it proves that we could get so many more of these, kind of like what David mentioned with
bounty hunters
and there's so much they could do, so it's really exciting of the future of Star Wars, and it's an exciting time.
Awesome. So we've mentioned this Jedi Temple and the Jedi not being the Force. I feel like, I guess the way I want to put this is, I feel like the Force is very present in this movie, but without being present through a Force user, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I know that was something that they had said early on before this movie came out. And this is fun because we actually get to kind of discuss this movie as like we know stuff about it in production and stuff. We know stuff about the other movies, but this was one that we kind of got to see recently, go through all these production notes and everything. But I know that they said that the Force not being there is a very present and very, clear thing to them. Mm-hmm. And I think that this movie did a little bit of retconning too, of the Force being a kind of ethereal thing again, because I think Chirrut was he was not. I'm just going to take a quick second. I feel like Jedis are able to manipulate the Force, but the Force was able to manipulate Chirrut during the movie. Because he's like, the Force is I'm one with the Force is with me. He walked through that entire battlefield, did not get shot once,
right?
Because I think the Force was protecting him. Mm-hmm. The Force used him as a conduit, as opposed to the Jedi, who are able to pull from the Force.
Well,
so the Force was trying to balance back out everything, possibly, in this movie.
Well, then the Force is a jerk.
Why?
Well, because the Force made sure that happened, and then as soon as he got to pull the switch, then the Force was like, I'm good now.
All right, maybe jumping ahead of ourselves, but I feel like
Sorry.
I feel like everyone in this movie has a little timer ticking over their head.
I know.
And I guess this is I'm getting ahead of myself because I got another conversation point I want to make.
We just get so excited talking about Star Wars.
But so the Force, I kind of think we've already kind of established. But Ellie, your thoughts on the Force in this movie? Do you think it is something that is making its presence known?
Yeah.
Again.
And it's inspiring too, because I forgot his name. I'm so sorry. The the big guy that has the gun that's always with.
Oh my gosh,
Jarrett.
I forgot his name.
Baze Malbus.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. You caused me to forget it.
I'm sorry. It was so because throughout the movie, he always makes. You can tell that he respects him, of course.
Yeah.
And just obviously he wouldn't be hanging around and following him if he didn't. But he kind of makes little jokes and and all that stuff at him. But it was so touching, when he starts chanting it. Then after,
yes.
Oh my gosh,
yes.
that was. So yes, I think it's more of an inspiration than anything else, and I like the take on the feelings of the Force in this one versus sometimes some of the. I mean, it's great in the other movies, but I'm just saying I liked the take on in this movie on the Force. It was really cool.
David, do you have anything to add?
Well, I wanted to add that in the prequels we see that the Force, and I'm not going to mention the big word in that, but the Force worked its will to start the ball rolling. And in the Force Awakens, the Force has kind of been dormant. So they've started establishing that the Force does have something going on, that the Force is, moving its little pieces around the universe too. And I definitely have to agree as far as like Chirrut goes. Yeah, I can see him being used by that, like by the Force to go through the motions that the Force needed to do to kind of start setting another, ball in the air, if like we're going with a juggling thing or whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree.
Awesome. I think this movie also does a great job of showing the grittiness of what war is to the rebels, to the Imperials, to everybody. In your all's opinion, is Rogue One, or the little group of Rogue, the spy team, likable people, to be honest, or people that you would like to be the protagonist of movies and everything?
I don't know. I think it's a great group. You grow to love them throughout the movie, though.
But they all have baggage and obviously are not the best examples of.
Right, but
good, upstanding people like we've seen through the other Star Wars movies. That's the comparison I wanted to make.
Well, but it brings it more down to earth.
True.
So I like that part that when you're watching the movie, you could be like basically comparing like, oh, I know where that person's coming from, or I can see why, they all have baggage, and that's what makes them human. So I like that part of it.
David, what about you?
The only one that I really didn't ever connect with was Cassian. I'm not sure why I didn't really connect with his character. I preferred like Chirrut and Baze and K2SO as the trio of characters that I really gravitated
yes.
towards. Even Jin, I really liked her. More in like that second half of the movie. I think it just took time to really get like her and Cassian established. I did like that Cassian in the opening, he's the guy that is having to make some of these tough decisions, and he will kill his informant to get away and keep going and keep doing what he has as a mission. And I like that they showed that the Rebel Alliance are not all nice hunky-dory people fighting for truth, justice, and the galactic way, basically.
Nice.
I definitely agree with you. I know that's something that when I was seeing the movie that I was very impressed with. That I mean, they have extremists within the rebellion that even they are like, whoa. He's taking it way too far.
Saul.
Yeah, like Saul Guerrero. They're like, he's an extremist, and even and that was really cool to because it makes the world feel more real. That the rebellion wasn't like this perfectly managed group of people. That it was teetering on the brink of collapse at many times, and it's
desperation.
Yeah, and and I think desperation will come up like I said, when we discuss more at the end of the movie. But I just really liked how it showed that not everything's squeaky clean. We've seen kind of the point of view from generals and from top ace starfighters, we've never seen, how they get this information or how it gets there. And it's nice to see that it's not, this squeaky clean way that it's done. I guess we should mention it now because I don't know if we've been avoiding it on purpose, but K2SO.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Alan Tudyk is my hero.
Star of the movie.
I was about to say, let's just talk about that real quick.
Can I say best droid ever?
Yes, and I actually want to, I don't know if this is a point you wanted to make. I feel like K2SO would not have been as impactful if we were not introduced to him when we were. Because we've been introduced to C-3PO and other droids, so having him being a sarcastic droid, I think, was just the perfect way to have him portrayed.
Whether we knew other droids or not, it's so magically written that it's perfect. I just absolutely love this character. It's cool how he kind of changes his feelings over time in the movie on Jyn.
Yeah.
So it's neat to see it, the way that he emotionally connects with her by the end of the movie, and he has more of he's kind of standoffish with her and smart alecky, and he's protected of her at the end. So it's kind of neat, but I love this droid, and I love the guy that voices him. So
absolutely. I mean, you think about the droids that you meet, and I could almost equate, if R2 had a voice, he would be almost like K2SO, but probably a little bit nicer at times. But one of the shining moments was in the that Jeddah battle where Jyn blasts in an Imperial droid, and he comes up and he's like, "Did you know that was me?"
Yes. Yep.
But
that's great.
And I watched the movie yesterday, and his death was probably one of the hardest ones to watch.
Oh, that's what it was. It bringed back in my head the timers above everyone's head.
Yes.
That's what it was. All right. So we brought up again. So what did you guys think going into this movie? Did you think anyone was going to make it out alive? Because I actually have an interesting twist to this on some, like I said, behind the scenes information. David, did you think anyone was going to make it out of this alive?
Of course, it's a Star Wars movie. You're not going to kill all of your group of characters. There's going to be somebody that was going to make it out alive. And again, I went into the movie not. I saw the trailer, but I didn't read up about it. I didn't do any of my normal background digging on this movie. So yeah, I was I knew there's going to be casualties. I was like, at least half are going to die, but they're going to get somebody out. And then as things just started progressing and you just come to that realization, and it's like, no, don't do this to me.
Ellie, what about you?
I kind of agree with David. I figured one or two would make it. I really did. And so, but I like that they didn't.
I will agree with that.
I like the fact that this was a suicide mission. They knew going into it that this is what it was, and they accepted it. Just like the scene when Jyn and Cassian were, holding hands and their death is imminent, obviously. Yeah. And they took satisfaction and joy knowing that what they did is going to possibly bring peace and hope to the next group of people. So they accepted that
their fate.
Yeah, they didn't. Mm-hmm. They weren't sitting there crying and moping and woe is me. They embraced it, and I thought that was beautifully done.
I know that there was supposedly another draft of the movie written where they actually, a few of them did make it off planet. They got on a ship and basically, very similar to what happened on Jeddah, they kind of escaped the blast. They had that written, allegedly, and they had it kind of in their back pocket when they were pitching stuff, and apparently they never had to use it or mention it because they were like, no, we like where you guys went with this. Mm-hmm. And they said that they were very surprised that Disney was okay with them going in that direction, everything. And I personally, when I went into the movie, I kind of was like, I want to see a few of them make it out alive. That'd be cool. And then the dark side behind me went, you want to see them all pay? They're all going to die, aren't they? And I'm like, no, they'll make it out.
Well, let's not forget that on the other side of Disney does kill a lot of people.
Yeah.
They just do it more in the background, so it's just not, pretty much every Disney out there, a parent or somebody is dead or dies in the movie, so.
True.
Disney has its evil side, too.
So, I thought that was really, as I was saying, I feel like everyone sort of has a timer over their head and sort of does something that they need to do to complete the mission, and it seems like if there's one tiny complaint I can have with the movie, it seems like every time someone completes some part of their mission, they die almost instantly afterwards. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of one of those things that sort of was like if I really want to nitpick, that's my only nitpick is that, why didn't one of them survive for another 5 minutes and then get randomly shot? It just seems like every time they complete it. But once again, maybe that's showing the Force at work, that it protected them or allowed them to get stuff done for as long as they needed to protect them. So I don't know. That's just my opinion on it. And like I said, that is me tiny chipping away at the mountain of how much I enjoy this movie. So don't get that wrong of me saying that as a negative thing. It's just my one little critique of it. So, what did you guys think of Vader in this movie, excluding the final scene? Excluding the final scene, because I know that there was a lot of pushback on the way he was portrayed in the movie with his discussion with director Krennic.
Well, kind of like we've discussed before, I don't think you'd appreciate Vader in this movie as much if you had not seen 4, 5, and 6. So, for me, it was great. That's what made it so special, is just, like I said, that scene where he comes in, and I know you said not excluding that, but I just, when he comes in and turns on his lightsaber, and that just would not have meant near as much as it did if I hadn't seen the other movies before. But I was okay with him in this movie. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I liked it. I liked seeing him actually being in a Bacta tank before Krennic got in there, and you get to see that Vader, has a few lackeys and the royal guard around with him too. My nitpick with Vader was the dad joke.
Oh, yes.
He brought out on Krennic about trying to get ahead of himself.
Don't choke on your ambitions.
Right. There you go. And that, I was like, you're kind of stretching on that one, but I just have to go away from Vader. Like, a tangent on Vader is that in A New Hope, Vader is Tarkin's lapdog for the most part. I'd really like to have seen maybe a glimpse into their relationship in this movie, because you really see the duel between Tarkin and Krennic over the Death Star and who's going to take credit for it. And please, make sure the Emperor knows that I did it and I succeeded. But really, Darth Vader in A New Hope is under Tarkin, and I just would have liked to have seen something play out just to give us a hint or a glimpse into how that relationship is.
That's a very good point. They sort of completely avoid it in this movie. I kind of wanted to save this discussion for when we do New Hope, but I know that from some of the books and from some of the other stuff that is canon, Vader has a actual respect for Tarkin, and vice versa. He actually is not too Vader's not too, how do you say, tolerant. He doesn't like the Imperials for the most part. The officers, the troops, he actually has a lot more respect for the stormtroopers than he does for the officers, except for Tarkin. And Tarkin and him sort of have this mutual understanding. For example, when he's on the Death Star, that's why he's Tarkin's lapdog, is because the Death Star is Tarkin's, and he's sort of the guest there to be his tool of war whenever he wants to use it. But that's a very interesting point. It would have been nice to see some interaction between those two. But as for your dad joke, I'm glad you didn't like it, because I'm on the fence with this. I understand people not liking it, but at the same time, I sit there and think back to him going, apology accepted.
Right.
So it's kind of one of those things. I'm like, I like it and I don't, but I'm kind of siding on more of I like it, but I can understand people's irritation with it, or a little bit kind of like about it. So this movie, like I said, has inspired a lot more stuff. It is the first, like I said, standalone Star Wars movie. But is there any inspirations from this movie that we are aware of that have inspired it? And
Yeah.
Ellie just lit up like a
I was
candle.
like,
So
I know a couple. There's actually a couple films that inspired Rogue One.
go ahead.
Okay. So, the Dam Busters and the Guns of Navarone.
Interesting.
They're both older films. The Dam Busters, 1955, and the Guns of, I'm so sorry if I'm saying it wrong, Navarone was 1961. But it was said that both of those films inspired the war parts of it, the battles and that sort of thing. So I thought that was really cool that they took some inspiration from some older movies.
All right. David, do you have any inspirations that you know of from this movie, or that helped?
Not off the top of my head. Nothing that I can pinpoint or think of. I mean, the only thing that I would maybe equate it to is it's got a Usual Suspects kind of feel as far as assembling the team together.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's maybe a stretch, but
I don't know. I just got this image of like some Guy Ritchie-esque, when they're assembled, they're like the pilot pops up above their head, or
You gotta have
the
them all like
engineer.
standing in a row, walking slowly.
Yeah.
Gotta have the Guardians feel and all the other different movies that do that. Another little Easter eggy thingy kind of thing too is cool is the jacket that Cassian wears.
It's reminiscent of Han Solo's
Yes.
from The Empire Strikes Back when they were on Hoth.
Exactly. So I thought that was really cool, and it's funny. Like, it's clearly inspired by. I mean, you don't see it like boom, like as soon as you see it, but you can definitely, if you really look at it, you can definitely see where that comes from. So I thought that was really cool too.
All right. If it's okay with everybody, I think I've hit the time limit on when I can geek out about something.
Oh, sure, yes.
So if it's
ahead.
okay, I mean, we can go back in the movie, but I want to talk about the Battle of Scarif.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
This moment in the movie was just, I seriously, when people say they're on the edge of their seats, I don't think I was even sitting in my seat. I wasn't standing. I was somehow able to just sit there in thin air. I was that excited about this. It was one of those things. Return of the Jedi did an amazing job with the star battles and everything for its time, and I mean it's still definitely really well done. But this was such a, as we've talked about, this movie has a sense of desperation with it, as a sense of hope. The rebels threw almost everything they had into this battle, and this battle was basically against 2 Star Destroyers and an Imperial shield installation, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that much, but it took out basically just that battle was just so well done and so well shot. I loved, the gold leader, the red leader, them bringing them back through the audio and through visual. I thought that was awesome. The implementation of female pilots, which was something that I know in the original series they said they wanted to have. It's just for some reason it got overlooked. Mm-hmm. So stuff like that was just, oh my gosh, it was just so cool, because I seriously was watching this going, I feel like this is me when I was younger with a ton of my toys, basically playing with them, like saying, oh, and then these Star Destroyers come in, and then the TIE Fighters come in. It was just, I was just sitting there watching this, just blown away the entire time by just how epic this battle was, and just it was just such a last stand for them, as sort of they had to get these things, which I think also goes and affects the New Hope battle of the Death Star, just to show that even that was more of something that was just desperation, and just like this is seriously all the rebels have left now was that little group of Y-Wings and X-Wings to go fight an entire battle station. Mm-hmm. So I think that kind of retroactively made that battle even have more weight to it, because their entire fleet was basically wiped out. And I'm skipping ahead in the battle a little bit, and I'm just talking about the space side of it at the moment. When the Devastator shows up, which is Vader's Star Destroyer that he had at the time, when that shows up and it just starts just blowing away what's left of the Rebel fleet, and there was ships trying to escape that just crashed into it, and it just kept flying like it was no big deal. It was just, that was showing the pure power of the Empire, and the Death Star was there too. So it was just such an epic battle. And I mean, the Rebels did a great job. They took out 2 Star Destroyers and the Shield. The Hammerhead Corvette scene was really cool.
Yes.
Thought that was interesting, especially since that was introduced in the Rebel series. And I know that the Ghost is seen somewhere in the background of a few of the scenes too. But like I said, it's unclear at this point still whether anyone from Rebels is piloting it or at that battle. So I don't want to get into that too much. But anyways, I just wanted to take a moment just to say how awesome that was. And then don't get me wrong, the ground battle was cool too. It's just seeing that space battle was just so cool for me. Okay, I think I've taken about 5 minutes of everyone's time, and what's everyone else's opinion on it?
I loved it. I love the space battle. I love small fighter battles, whether it's like dogfighting with airplanes, starships, anything of that nature. I really enjoy it. I loved everything that they did cinematically with it. I really, and throwing back to it, it's one of those first times where all of the rebels and their fleets of ships are together, and their hand is forced because of what the crew of Rogue One has done. They now have to commit their forces to go do this for that small chance of getting the Death Star plans. And I liked when Vader's ship showed up because they're trying to escape. They're trying to get their jump to light speed or hyperspace, and they have to make those calculations, and it's taking time, and the Star Destroyer just plows right into them, doesn't even give them a chance. It is just everything that I hope future starfighter and even large scale capital ship battles. I just want that. Like, give me more of that.
Ellie, your opinion on the Battle of Scarif?
I mean, I don't know really what else to say. There was just so many great points. Kind of what you said earlier, Zenger, about it wasn't just the space battle; it was on land too.
Yes.
Just all of it in general was really great, and it was really good about kind of how it focused in on each character and what they did as each thing they did was minor, but when you added it all together as a collective, that's how they succeeded. So it showed how, everybody in the team played an important role to the overall, end of the story. So I loved it, and it was awesome.
Awesome. Like I said, I think that was a nice third act and everything. Like I said, I think the third act of this movie is very solid in what it did. I think everything leading up to it did help. All right, so this movie has had some very interesting lead up to it. I did mention rewrites and stuff like that it's had. David has pointed out before we started recording that he has some notes on the trailers, which we could discuss, possibly how the movie's ending and stuff like that could have changed. So, David, if you would, take it away.
I just have a few nitpicks. The movie is solid, but there's some stuff in the trailers that don't make it into the movie, and some of the scenes in there they've brought up and mentioned. The most iconic, there's like a few iconic scenes. One was Jyn wearing that TIE fighter uniform and standing in that tunnel of lights that kind of illuminates her, and it was in the trailer, and you're expecting to see it in the movie, and it wasn't there. And then the director had come out and said, "Oh, we were just messing around, and it looked really cool, so I shot it and threw it in the trailer." One of the other ones was on Scarif, like Krennic and a bunch of sand troopers, or I guess they're sand troopers,
Beach
are walking.
troopers.
They're walking in the water, like during the fight or after a fight, and you don't see that. And then the other one, again with Jyn, is when she's doing the transmission at the end. There's a TIE fighter that comes almost eye level to her, and again, that wasn't in there. And it's kind of like those scenes where you've seen them in the trailer so many times, you're expecting them, and then you don't get them, and you're like, well, what happened? Where did they go?
I know another one was during the where they were on the beach running to that where they had the data tape. She had the data tape, and she was running, and they were firing at them, and that never made it in as well. I just wonder if that was, some of the reshoots and rewrites they did, if that kind of had an effect and they just left certain things in. Or maybe it was a purposeful thing. Maybe, this is something they're trying to do to not have people, sniffing around too much and figuring out stuff.
Right.
Maybe it's something they're intentionally doing. The TIE Fighter thing, I actually had this cross my mind when I was watching it. I was wondering if the strike TIE Fighters, which I think is what the ones are referred to that are around the facility, if those weren't if they weren't using those, and then they switched them to where they're like, oh, well, instead of having the regular TIE Fighters, let's throw these new TIE Fighters in. We can sell more toys. So I'm wondering if that's why it switched to a different one, because a TIE still did confront her. It just flew by and did it.
Right.
So that's why I'm wondering if that's what happened, is they switched it because of that. So who knows? Or it might have just been put in there as a red herring for, like I said, just to throw people off of what was going on in the movie. Like I said, I think that this movie has a lot of Easter eggs in it. Another thing that was introduced, since we're talking about new things that got introduced, the ATCT and the Death Troopers. What do you guys think of those?
I mean, I like the look and the appearance of them. I kind of like that they had started to make even more specializations of the specific troopers. And then, I want more information. Like, how does one become a Death Trooper? What do you have to do to become a Death Trooper? Like, where
do I sign the application?
Do you have to interview?
Like,
is there a selection process?
Like that, and this is always just something curious about, like, who gets those assignments and who gets to just, like you see those stormtroopers at the beginning of the movie having to deal with the prisoner transport, and they're like, oh great, like what happened now? Like those guys versus Death Troopers or the Sand Troopers or the Beach Troopers, and there's a lot of specialization out there.
I kind of like it, to be honest. The Death Troopers are interesting because you kind of get that the Stormtroopers are some humanoid or something behind there. Those, since when they talk, their voices are altered, or maybe that's the language they actually are trained to speak. They felt so inhuman.
Mm-hmm.
And it was weird. And also they're accurate when they shoot too, which was also equally scary to see a Stormtrooper that can shoot accurately. So that was interesting for me. The specialization was very cool. I mean, you'd think, a giant empire, that has to basically occupy tons of different planets would have all these different, special troops for different environments. So that was interesting to see, a beach planet, to have a little bit different variation. But I think the ACTCs was very interesting because it was obvious that, the walkers were something that they could use for some other things other than war, which was really cool to see that. The Imperial transports were interesting to see, them transporting the Kyber crystals up to the Star Destroyer during the occupation. The tanks were really cool. We got to see an Imperial tank. And also there was a ATST there too. So all that stuff was really cool to kind of see that, implemented, and, just some different stuff. Where is it in the original series? I'm not one to sit there and nitpick and care too much. It's kind of one of those whatever after it's kind of over and done with. Just a few more little things I just wanted to point out. This is a transition and technically a prequel movie. It has some politics in it. Is that something that was a turnoff for any of you guys? Like something that you didn't want to have the politics in it as much, or was it something that you were okay with?
I was okay with it.
I loved it. I loved the whole Krennic Tarkin duel, basically, for their political futures, and that is how exactly, if they ever do a political movie or something along those lines, I want it to be very character driven, just like that.
I enjoyed it as well, and it also, in New Hope, there is that nice little bit of, some political stuff between the Imperial officers. So I liked how it was still in this one too. That they carried that there. That shows how powerful Tarkin was and how formidable he was, even to other Imperials.
I'm sorry, even jumping on the Rebel side, you have people like Mon Mothma and Bail
good
Organa and Jan Dodonna doing like their thing, but then you have that other subsection of generals where they're like, oh no, don't bring them in, kill them, or I'm going to take my ship and go fight, and screw you guys. I believe in what this one person is saying about getting the plans. Like you get to see it on both sides, and that's really is a fascinating like strike of the political behind the scenes of like the Galactic Empire and the Little Rebellion.
I know that a lot of people criticize the prequels for their whole political stuff, and I mean, I tried watching them this time with a more eye for that to see how much it held up. And I I think I've said my opinion of it in the past on a past episode, but in this, I like it because it helps add to the story. It's not something to where you're sitting there kind of like, ugh. You're sitting there intrigued because it's like, oh my gosh, he's talking to that officer like that, or why is there this drama going on? So I thought that was really well done. Finally, we kind of mentioned Vader's little interaction on. Did anyone catch what planet that is, by the way?
Oh, they confirmed it's Mustafar.
Okay, I was wondering because it
didn't show up on screen, but they did go ahead and say that it's Mustafar.
And also, if you watch it on Blu-ray, when you go to that scene, it does say Mustafar. It does say Castle on Mustafar, I think is what the scene's called.
Okay.
So that was interesting, and I want to kind of mention that real quick as sort of a callback to the prequels, in the sense of, think about this. Vader has chosen to put his area to go technically not be Vader on the planet where he suffered his greatest defeat. And he has it's supposedly overlooking the battle, like where the battle took place. It's just interesting because, I mean, that's powering him technically as a Sith Lord. That's fueling his hatred. And basically, he likes to go somewhere to where he can feel hatred and just fear and everything all over again from where he lost basically everything. So I thought that was an interesting, nice little touch by the writers and everything to put that actually on Mustafar and not just some other lava planet. Personally, I mean, I enjoyed that. Ellie, what did you think of it actually being Mustafar?
No, it was cool. I mean, we talked in depth about Mustafar in one of the other episodes about how it was filmed, and it was really cool. That it was actually real live lava going around and everything. So I thought it was great.
But I just want to point this out before we move on. If you notice, his castle is on the higher ground.
Oh my gosh, stop. Ugh.
All right, for our final thoughts exercise, I kind of wanted to do one more question real quick. Where would you watch this movie if you had somebody who has never seen Star Wars? How would you have them watch this? I know we've discussed how to watch Star Wars in previous stuff, but I just want to know now this is out and everyone's kind of gotten to see it a little bit more. Where would everyone put this?
Okay, are we giving an order, or do I need to just tell you that I would watch it right before A New Hope?
Now, if you're introducing it to someone who's never seen
any of them, right?
Yeah. We're going to go with that. Because, I mean, when for Star Wars Day, I actually did watch them starting with Rogue One. And then 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally put it as, I mean, I would either start with Revenge of the Sith and then lead into this, or just start Rogue One and then into the original trilogy. Okay,
cool. Ellie, where would you put it?
I totally wholeheartedly disagree.
Oh, controversy.
Yeah. Like I said before, there's too much in this movie that is much more meaningful if you've seen the original trilogy first. So I definitely say I would not watch it before those movies.
If you're introducing it to somebody.
Yeah, if I'm introducing it to somebody, hands down, I would not have them watch this movie before A New Hope.
Okay.
I think it needs to be seen after. Now, whether I would do it after episode 4 or episode 5. I'm not quite sure. But definitely I would have them watch it after they've watched the original trilogies.
All right, I'm trying to remember back right now to our what order do you watch me to see what I said, because I kind of still agree with myself there. Of I would and we just want to point out, everyone, we're not trying to gang up on David, him being our guest and everything.
No. It's no fun if you all agree with everything.
But,
exactly.
But I think I originally said watch it after, like if you did watch them in order, like not the machete method. Or no way, I think I agreed that you would watch 4, Rogue One as sort of a here's how they did it.
I think
and then 5, 1, 2, 3, and then 6. I kind of still agree with that. I don't think you could start with this one because there would be too many questions, and kind of I also want to kind of side with maybe this is something that after you watch the. Maybe this is something after you watch the trilogy that you would enjoy more after the fact.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying you
or
can't.
Or after the trilogy, after the saga. Sorry,
right.
Saga.
I mean, you most definitely can watch this first. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying you will appreciate the movie a lot more if you watch it after.
I will agree with that.
Yeah.
So let us know your opinions on where you place this movie. All right. So final thoughts from everybody. Ellie, this is a part you love, so I will let you go first.
Really?
I mean, if you want to.
No, I can go first. I was just wondering where the "this is a part you love" came from.
I don't know. I just feel you enjoy, to get your final thoughts on something.
Okay.
And
I always like saying the last word, but it's
well,
okay.
You can go last if you want.
No, it's good. I can go. Right. I can go. My final thoughts. I'm going to piggyback to the beginning of this conversation where we were talking about how the plot was basically
2 lines.
2 lines. And it was great. We all know the huge, over the years, fans with the big plot hole of, how did nobody notice the flaw?
Yes, this is something we actually did not discuss that deeply.
Well, I'm doing it now.
There we go. This is what final thoughts are for.
That's right. So this has been a huge fan critique for years. Of how did nobody notice that there was this big flaw in the exhaust port flow? Why was this overlooked? Blah blah blah. And so it was nice that they took a fan question like that and they made a whole movie about it, because that's basically, it was explaining, Galen Erso's sabotage. He felt bad and he wanted to, kind of make up for doing this. And so he, incorporated this little plan in there and to get this flaw in there. So it's kind of neat that this, I feel like this kind of just stemmed from, this big question that fans have had all these years. And Lucas was like, here you go.
Or Disney now was like,
well,
here you
sorry.
go.
Whoever, goodness gracious. It's still Lucas's baby, but yes, Disney. They were just like, here it is, here's your answer. Now stop bothering me about it. So, but like I said, it was a great, great, great movie. I really enjoyed it. And I cannot wait for the Han Solo movie.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. I'm gonna go next real quick. I'll let David, being our guest, kind of close things out today with his final thoughts. But mine are, if you just want to rewind a little bit and listen to me just go on about the battle of Scarif, I think that sums it up. I should have just been holding toys and like flying them through the air as I was discussing it. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so I love this. I really hope that they can do more stuff like this. I think freeing themselves from the chains of the episodic Star Wars is good. I love it because all it did was add, in my opinion. I don't think it did anything to take away, and I really enjoyed it. Personally, like I said, I left that theater just jaw dropped and just was just so happy with a lot of stuff in it. And I think that, yes, the whole, how was the Death Star able to be taken out by such a seemingly easy flaw that how did they overlook that? It's because he hit it, and I thought that was great. So in my opinion, like I said, they did a great job, and I don't know, we didn't mention it up to this point. I didn't know if David wanted to put it in his final thoughts, but the Carrie Fisher Princess Leia digital thing at the end, I thought was very touching, and I thought was I know that a lot of people criticize the whole facial reconstruction thing that they've done with some of the characters, but I really enjoyed seeing her again because it when they ask her, what would they give you, and she said hope. I thought that was just so emotionally driving right there. And I did make the joke today when we were watching it before we recorded that she sort of said they gave us a new hope as a play on the names of the movies.
That would be kind of funny. Yes.
It would have been, but I don't think it would have had the same impact. David, your turn to close this out and jump us into Lightspeed.
Okay. When Disney took over the Star Wars property, I was nervous. Not so much for Force Awakens, but this one more so, and it was the one that I was really hesitant on, and it exceeded all of my expectations with just a few minor criticisms here or there. I could not have asked for a better movie. This is the movie that you don't know that you want until you actually see it, and now you want more of it. And I have great hope for the Han Solo movie now, between like the casting and hopefully the story. And I'm excited to see what they announce next, which maybe an Obi-Wan movie in a few years, but we'll get to that point when we get to it, I guess.
We would like to thank you for being part of our Star Wars year-long celebration and being an addition to this episode. So
thank you for having me.
Oh, it was a pleasure. We partnered with you on your channel, which I'm going to give you a second to talk about, but we partnered with you. You actually talked to us about, what our fandoms are, but we also were with you for the 40th anniversary of Star Wars, which we could not appreciate enough, you having us a part of that. So we want to thank you on air with our fans for being a part of that.
You are welcome. It's fun to have you.
So with that, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find my podcast, Tales from the Fandom, on any place that you can get Zeng This on, as far as iTunes or Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play. You can go to talesfromthefandom.com, and you could also go to facebook.com/talesfromthefandom, where we update almost daily on upcoming episodes, who's guesting, Throwback Thursdays. On Sundays, I try to highlight a podcast or a website that I like, that I enjoy. But my podcast is a weekly podcast where I talk to a different guest each week about the fandoms that they love. Sometimes major ones like Star Wars, and sometimes ones that even I have not heard of, and I get to get educated on. And it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you once again for being a part of that. Where's some of the best places to find us on the internet, Ellie?
SoundCloud.
iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. You can also find us on Stitcher, Tuned In, and Google Play.
Yeah.
You can also find us on Facebook.
Yep.
Zeng This. Mm-hmm. If you want to tweet at us any of your thoughts on Star Wars.
Tweet.
You can do that at Zeng This on Twitter. You can also go on Instagram where we post some pictures. That would be
at Zeng This Podcast.
You can go to Patreon if you want to help contribute to the podcast.
www.patreon.com/ZingThis.
If you want to find us on YouTube, just search Zeng This. And finally, if you want to email us directly, you can go to
zingthis@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank our sound guy, Aaron, and DJ Golden Boy, as always.
89.
Play us out. I've been Grand Moff Zenger.
EK2SO.
I've been David the Hutt.
Thank you guys, and we'll see you next time from a galaxy far, far away.